time to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanoff.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we got an interesting topic, an episode or a topic I don't think we've covered on this show. We're talking about transitions in business, life transitions, growing your business. You're doing a lot of big things, and what's next, right? A lot of us don't think about that, or we don't think what could happen, and sometimes it could be bigger than we ever dreamed. So I have a very cool guest with us today, a very cool story, Darin from Motorworks. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So your story was compelling, at least what I read about you online. You transitioned, it seems like, several times in business. And this, like I said in the intro there, a lot of people they start businesses because they're passionate about it and they grow the business, but you don't ever really think about what's next or what could be next. You think, well, this is it until retirement. And rarely is that the case, and it doesn't seem like that was the case for you. Why don't we start there for you at the beginning? What was your goal with starting your first business, and did you think it was going to take you to retirement?
I didn't really know what I was doing when I started my first business. I'm on about my 15th business now. So it's one of those things where you kind of make a lot of mistakes and you kind of, stumble in and out of opportunities before you get someplace that's feeling at least semi-permanent. With that said, what you said, there's not really any real permanence out there. It's very difficult now to do things all the way to retirement. People that generally accomplish that, kind of hit a home run pretty early and check out that way. But I don't think I've ever really been in a position where I felt like retirement was the long-term goal with anything that I've ever done before. And it's constantly been sort of a, what are we going to do now? How are we going to be happy? How are we going to enjoy our work-life balance? And what's going to make us get out of bed and get excited in the morning? And that's kind of what's dictated the entire course of my career up to this point.
Yeah, I love that mentality, because it's something that you can actually be passionate about then. And as that changes, you change, life changes, careers change. So these transitions, they're, for a lot of people, they happen multiple times, unless, like you said, you hit it big and you just check out. But when you're coming to one of those transition points in your career, in your business, what did they look like for you? How did you know that you were approaching them? How did you know it was the right time to make a transition?
Well, you mentioned passion, and passion has been sort of a central component in everything I've done professionally, pretty much my entire career. I've been exceptionally lucky in that department, depending on, I guess, how you look at it. But that's what it's always been, is that I would kind of burn out on something, and then it would be, what else is there? What's the next thing that's always pushed me and driven me and gotten me excited about life? And that's the direction I've always gone. As far as thinking things through or really kind of figuring stuff out ahead of time, I think you can't underscore the value of a proper business plan. And I think that's a skill that entrepreneurs in particular need to continuously develop throughout the course of their working lives. But for me, it's been a lot of opportunity and recognizing that opportunity and then working really hard to capitalize on that. And that's kind of how I've been able to transition from one passion-related job to another throughout my working life.
People don't typically put passion and business plan in the same sentence, but you did. So how do you do that? Because passion's one thing, but then when you crunch the numbers, I see a lot of people tend to lose the passion because the excitement isn't there. It becomes, even though that's a projection, it becomes a little bit more concrete. So how do you make sure that you can still have the passion? It's something you want to pursue, you like doing, but the numbers also make sense.
It's one of those things that you have to develop, and you have to understand that there's risks associated with doing that. Most notably, things that you tend to really love become that sort of concrete work kind of situation, and they lose their ability to retain your passion. So, I really kind of went through that with live music. Like now I almost never go to concerts anymore, whereas I went to 2,500 or something over the course of like 8 years when I was in the music industry prior to getting in the classic car space like I am now. So you have to understand that there's a trade-off involved here, and that you're going to suffer the loss of that passion. So the trick there, I think, is to continuously develop new ones. For me, there's always really been three central ones. It's been animals, it's been guitars, and it's been collector cars and motorcycles. So I've managed to sort of get to that point now where I've done all three of those basically throughout the entire course of my career. But there's components of that where you can kind of spin back on things too. Like, for example, I worked with exotic animals when I was in my early 20s. And now I'm attempting to raise money for zoos and conservation efforts and things of that nature through our Motorworks Gives initiatives that we have. So you can constantly revisit things and kind of spin back and look at things differently. Another example, I played hardcore punk for like 20 years. Now I barely ever touch my guitars that I do that with, but I have Stratocasters, and I've learned to love blues music. So I play blues guitar almost every day. So the passions can kind of modify as you go throughout the course of your career. But the real reality is that you have to understand it becomes work. And I think a lot of people screw that up and they overlook the financial components, and they fail as a result of that.
Yeah, it happens all the time because you just want to have fun. You want to chase your passion. But I think it's also interesting how you blend those three passions, and sometimes for monetary gain, other times for charity, which is still monetary gain technically. But then it sounds like also just to sort of disconnect from the other things. Is that true? Do you kind of go to, like, playing guitar, for example, do you go to that strategically in order to keep the passion alive in the other areas, or am I hearing that incorrectly?
No, definitely. And I think you need to change your scope of focus as you kind of do that also. And again, you can add things too. I mean, I started boxing in my late 20s, and that's become a huge component of my daily life now. The nonprofit thing too, that's something we started screwing around with just as a side project in 2018. Found out we were pretty good at it, raised $25 million. And now it's something that we're trying to do on a wider scale to help more nonprofits. So, the things that get you out of bed, you just continuously add to your profile or to your portfolio all the time. And it makes you not only a better, more bankable business person, but it makes you a better, more well-rounded individual as well.
I'm curious about the nonprofit space because there's a lot of people who love contributing to nonprofits, love volunteering with nonprofits, but starting one and running one is a totally different animal. And you obviously are quite good at it. I mean, $25 million is a lot for it's probably more than most nonprofits raise ever. And that's a huge deal. What did you learn about that you took from your for-profit business career? And then what did you also learn from nonprofits that you can take back to your for-profit businesses?
I mean, that's kind of a big question. And I guess the short answer to that is that we learned that we don't want to be a nonprofit. We want to help nonprofits. Do we want to make money doing that? Not necessarily, but there's inherent benefits within the organization of having a broader, bigger purpose. I mean, for example, don't get me wrong, I love playing with collector cars, but you can only hear a millionaire complain about the Barani wire wheel spinner being wrong on their $10 million Ferrari so many times before you start to question why you're even doing anything that you're doing anymore. So having a bigger purpose and trying to accomplish larger, better things for more people is a big deal. And we've learned a lot of organizational things. We've been able to test systems. We've been able to sort of broaden our abilities as a for-profit business by helping nonprofit businesses. And at this point, we've helped over 40 of them. So it's something that's become a major component of what we do, but that's also transitioned over to our clients that are handling our for-profit side, and they've been the recipients of a better product from us as a result.
So all these nonprofits, the ones that you're helping as clients, are they in a similar industry? Are they in the automotive industry too?
We help a lot of automotive-related charities, car museums and car clubs, people that are custodians of records and important racing memorabilia and things of that nature. But the scope is very broad for us. I mean, whether it be children's cancers or heart disease issues or environmental concerns or any number of things, we kind of run the gamut on that stuff. The stuff that we're really focusing on right now is trying to protect zoos, museums, aquariums, things like that have been the recent recipients of some budget cuts from the federal government that have significant overheads that need help maintaining that right now. And that's something that we've kind of figured out how to do really effectively and with no money up front, which is a nice thing that a lot of nonprofits are sort of having a hard time believing when they come in the door. But we've gotten pretty good at this over the years, and it's something that we can do pretty easily for virtually any nonprofit.
So what does that look like? I'm sure there's some business lessons there. Nonprofits, yes, they're unique, but they still are a business, right? Like you have to make money, you have to cover your costs, and you have to run a business. But what are the things that you hit on? Let's stick with the zoos, aquariums, that make them able to be self-funded or less reliant on the government in this scenario.
Well, I mean, you have to look at what the individual nonprofits' assets are for things like museums, and we offer a number of different programs. We've kind of figured out a really thorough group of products to offer these people that can work for a variety of things. But when we're talking about like venues, for example, like a zoo or a museum is a venue, you've got all of the things inside that draw people in, and then you have people walking through the doors. So we figured out how to sort of capitalize on foot traffic and existing mailing lists and things that really don't require any additional effort from those organizations. And we figured out how to put things out there to incentivize people to donate to these particular causes once they're already there and enjoying the experience that they're having there.
So it's really leveraging what they already have. Is there any component of stimulating new lines of revenue or new product lines, stuff like that?
Oh, of course. We go out into the world with the assets and collateral that we put out there for these nonprofits, and we bring in new people. And actually, one of the things that's really unique and different about us is that most of the other organizations that kind of do similar things to what we do, they keep the mailing lists that they generate. We don't do that. We allow the nonprofits to keep the mailing list that we generate for them. And that actually turns out to be one of the bigger deals that these nonprofits have, especially the first couple of years that they work with us, is that it allows them to repeatedly reach out and touch people that now know what they're about, have donated previously, like what they're doing, and are really likely to donate to them again. So, I mean, just the mailing list component alone, we've watched nonprofits that have sort of started out in situations where there's like one person answering 9 phones at one time, and they're in a little tiny strip mall in the hood someplace with no branding and no real idea what they're doing, and then turn into these big, sort of multi-employee organizations that become important names nationally and are able to help a lot of people as a result. So that's really one of the more rewarding things that I get to do, is when I go out on the road and meet with some of these people at these nonprofits and see where they've started versus where they are now and the things that they're projecting. For example, like the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame in Iowa, or the Shelby American Collection, which are both automotive museums. That one's in Colorado. Have recently opened gigantic, new, beautiful, fantastic buildings, and that's a result of the effort that we've put in. That's
incredible. So you're passionate about nonprofits. It's very clear. You're passionate about the automotive industry. Where are you at in your career with these two passions in terms of the next transition? Is there one on the horizon, or are you pretty happy where you are?
I mean, I think we're transitioning further into the nonprofit thing, and candidly, I would kind of like to make that the majority of my day moving forward. We talked about retirement earlier. That's kind of how I see myself retired, is sitting on my back patio, drinking orange juice and having breakfast and watching my 450-pound Aldabra Taurus walk by while I check my phone and see how my nonprofits are doing for that day. I mean, I think that's the eventual long-term goal. However, there are other components of Motorworks companies that I think are probably as important right now. For example, we just took over Arizona Car Week, which is one of the, generally top 5, generally top 3 biggest tourism tax draws that the Phoenix area has annually. So we're trying to protect that for the future and make sure that remains a viable source of income to fix potholes and put school books on kids' desks and turkeys on Thanksgiving tables that maybe normally wouldn't have access to those, that kind of thing. So as far as leaving automotive, it's probably not going to happen. It's going to continuously evolve. And obviously, as we evolve, we try to evolve up, which allows us to do bigger and cooler things all the time. But, I think the next transition for me is really focusing more and more on the nonprofit side. I mean, personally, as far as my hobbies go, I've really become obsessed with mid-century Italian racing motorcycles over the last couple of years. So I'm doing a lot less stuff personally with cars and a lot more stuff with motorcycles. And I think that's allowed me to keep the car side of what I do much fresher as well. I'm much more engaged professionally with collector cars because now I have no interest in showing them anymore. I'm pretty much only showing motorcycles now. So, I mean, it's like little tweaks like that kind of keep you going and allow you to continue and still be engaged as you move down the road of your career.
So I guess what I'm curious about is there's so many people, especially I know listeners of this show, even where you're so obsessed with your business, and to some degree, there's nothing wrong with that, but that they don't have the other hobbies or the passions. You have seemingly a lot of them, and you've cycled through them throughout the course of your career. Not all of them have to turn into a nonprofit or another business or anything like that. But for you, how important has it been to be a well-rounded individual, to step back from your business and actually have something else that is at least a passion?
Well, I mean, I think burnout is the ultimate enemy of every entrepreneur and business owner. And you can only grind so hard, even if you love what you do. I mean, and I'm a guy that works, 70 hours a week, 100 hours a week, somewhere in that general vicinity, literally all the time, and have for the last decade or more. But the reason I'm able to do that is because I take breaks and I go do stuff. And again, I engage in things that I know I'm not going to do professionally. Am I ever going to be a vintage motorcycle dealer? Probably not. Am I ever going to be a professional boxer? Certainly not. So, having things that you can only take so far, but you continuously enjoy no matter where you are in the process is really critical, I think, to being able to continue to be a good employer, a good provider for other businesses or clients. You need to be able to let your brain reset and look at things from sometimes an outside perspective. I mean, I get more knowledge and more insight oftentimes when I'm standing in a boxing ring than I do anywhere else. And it's because I have to be reactive in that particular time period, which means I can't overthink things. So, I mean, having things like that, I mean, blues guitar, I think, is another great example of that. Having things like that available to you as a business owner that makes you stop and appreciate and kind of smell the roses only makes your product and your business sweeter when you return to it.
Yeah, I would love to see, I'm not a brain scientist by any means, but I think that's pretty obvious if you listen to this show. I would love to see the psychology behind that too. Just activating different parts of your brain. You got music, you have art and business, and these are very disconnected things, but expanding your brain and forcing yourself to be passionate about different areas. Be curious to see what that does for you as an overall human being, not just you, but anybody in general. I think that's interesting to me.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I feel it immediately. When I'm on a 12-hour grind session or something, and I get up and I go to the gym, or, I get off a call or something and I just reach over on the other side of my desk and I grab one of my guitars and take 10 minutes, I immediately can feel like what you're talking about, like the different parts of my brain starting to fire, and it almost like sort of calms down. I mean, you know how like the parachute firefighters, they'll set fires in order to stop other forest fires. Mm-hmm. Like it kind of almost feels like that when you engage in something that's very different from what you just engaged in professionally, it kind of sets a fire someplace else that contains the other fire that you're trying to deal with at that particular moment. So, I mean, God bless the people that are ultra focused, and they tend to be successful. I mean, it's like you throw a bone in the backyard and bury it 6 feet underground. A dog's going to find it because that's what they're focused on. But, again, do you want to live your life like a dog, or do you want to live your life like a person? So, I mean, that's kind of the situation at the end of the day. Is I would rather be able to get in my car and go drive someplace than just sit in my backyard and dig all day long.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, me and you are now amateur brain scientists, so add it to the resume. Darin, this is awesome. I appreciate this conversation. It's an important conversation. And I hope more people go explore what else they're passionate about and become a little bit more well-rounded like we're talking about here. Where should people go learn more about you, everything you have going on? And you seem to have a lot going on, but what's the best place to go?
There's a lot going on, definitely. If you want to learn about the 5 companies that are sort of under the Motorworks brand, you can go to motorworkscompanies.com. It's MOTORWERKS, marketing.com. We've also got a newsletter media outlet that's got about 20,000 subscribers. We publish 3 times a week on that. You can go to thez260.com, THEZ260.com for that. Or if you're interested in anything I'm doing, find me on Instagram. I'm very active there. Darin, Darin, Motorworks, MOTORWERKS. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So that's the best places to find me.
I love it. We got motorworkscompanies.com on the screen. All of those links are down below in the show notes wherever you're watching or listening. So go check that stuff out. Darin, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And for our listeners, thank you for being here. I hope you subscribe. We'll see you back on the next episode tomorrow of Harmonious at Lunch.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in their life and business. For cutting-edge tools that bring clarity to your people and processes, check out humanoff.com to download our app today. See you next time.